So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts number 72, just the worst analogies with David Menton. I am currently all by myself, but Vishanti should be joining us shortly. She had something to get taken care of before she got here. So, I'm going to have to be running this thing by myself, which means, hey, I might not be able to pay as much attention to, say, chat as I would like to. But that's okay. I am today drinking some Mountain Dew Baja Blast right now. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, we take a look at some of just the lowest hanging fruit of creationism, and we debunk it live with a bit of a drinking game. Before I get started with that, though, I do want to say a special thank you. I received a book from my wish list. It is the Star Trek Adventures Gamma Quadrant source book, which has a lot of cool stuff about the Borg, which is one of the big reasons that I think it's a good book to have. But also, I have to say, it didn't seem to come with a card, and so I'm not sure who sent it to me. So if you sent it to me, please let me know, unless you just want to remain anonymous, that's fine. But yeah, I do want to thank whoever it is that sent that to me. I really do appreciate it. It's very, very cool, and I started reading it on my brand new reading chair, because I got one of those, because I was kind of tired of not having a dedicated reading chair. So, you know, I got one. So thank you very much if that was you. Jillian says, don't not mention low-hanging fruit regarding this guy. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I probably shouldn't have. Alright, well, let's take a look at the drinking rules. So, first of all, I will take a drink anytime David Menton says something that's just so stupid. I kind of have to. Now, do be warned, I have a pretty high tolerance for dumb stuff. So, like, you know, it takes a bit for me. But we'll also take a drink anytime David Menton gets something that is factually correct, that he's not just reading out of, like, a book or something like that. If it's a direct quotation, doesn't really count. But if it actually comes out of his brain, then it absolutely does count. And then also, Too Young to Feel This Old, who's been a member for 22 months, I was at the Soropsa level, thank you very much, says, drink nerds, with a heart, an AIG is a bag of dick emoji, and of course, a disgusting pelagic tunicate emoji, which I find inexcusable. There is no reason to ever put a pelagic tunicate emoji, even if, you know, I did supply them myself. So, you know, that's a thing. But anyway, here's the first drink. Let's see. Roasting illegal tax in Keller for $1.99 says, how does a dinosaur sit on a reading chair? Well, it's a custom dinosaur-shaped reading chair, right? Like, there's padding for, like, the abdomen and chest, and there's a little divot for, like, you know, the pubis that projects down and to the front, and then, you know, there's, like, no back to the chair, because why bother? You're a dinosaur. You're not putting your back up against anything. So it's sort of like a... like an ottoman, an oddly shaped ottoman. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we'll also take a drink, as we just saw. If anyone super chats or membership milestone chats anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink if anyone super chats or membership chats anything with any of the kaiju emoji, which include Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. You have to be a channel member for that one. So we'll keep going with the ones that Menton can cause. We'll also take a drink if David Menton tells a story that didn't happen, or tells a joke that doesn't land. Unfortunately, his jokes have been landing, not with me, but like with his audience, which is ultimately what counts the most. So, you know. And yeah, Rana Unwelcome Nuance K says it's a Dinotopia chair. Exactly. If you've read Dinotopia, you would know how to make a dinosaur reading chair. Although the book is in English and not that crazy dinosaur footprint language that... When you actually think about what it would take to write that as a dinosaur, it seems extremely tiring. Honestly. And ultimately, even the humans who write it with little, like, foot-shaped, like, stamps that they have to, like, rotate in their hands, that just sounds like my hand would get sore real fast. But whatever. Where was I? Right. David Menton. We'll also take a drink if David Menton mentions that political party that, you know, kind of took over Germany back in, like, you know, the 30s and stayed in power until they were kicked out by some, like, mostly Russians and Americans. Yeah, if he mentions them, we'll take a drink. We'll also take a drink if Dr. Menton cites a source that we then go check on, and then rather than supporting his contention, it not only fails to support it, but it actively works against him. We call that a Trojan source. We'll take a drink for that. Also, if for any reason Dr. Menton decides to pretend that all we know about any wider taxon to which Lucy, the Australopithecus, belonged is based on what we can know from that one particular skeleton, we'll take a drink. So, for instance, if he says, well, we don't know what Lucy's feet were like because her body was found without feet or foot bones, yeah, well, guess what? Other Australopithecus feet have been found. So take a drink for that, too. We'll also take a drink if Mothra or Godzilla come by audibly. We will also take a drink if I screw up the production of this show, which almost happened already, but I saved it just at the last minute. Twice now? That's okay. We'll also take a drink if anyone super chats anything to the effect... Oh, we already did AIG's Bag Dicks, but we'll also take a drink for each gifted membership up to a certain level. Basically, if it's like... If the stack of drinks for named... Or if our gifted memberships is like 30, I'm just gonna finish this drink, this hard Baja Blast, and we'll move on, and I will add 30 or whatever the number is to the drink counter. And in case you're worried, I do have some hard Mountain Dew watermelon on standby in case I need to refresh, but it's not break time. Because we do like to take a quick break around the 1 hour mark, just to get drinks, you know, let everyone grab something to snack on, and also play a few ads while you're not missing anything. Now, there's a fair chance that I've forgotten one of these things, because no one's here to back me up today on these. So if I did forget a drink trigger, please let me know if you remember it. And if you don't let me know and I still forget it, well, guess what? If I remember it while we're doing the response, I'll still take the drink for it and call it out. So, yeah, there you go. Also, DM Google Debunker Wing says, can we not mention Menton? No, this is still the Menton video. Although I will say I do plan to get through as much of it as possible today. So what that means is, let's take a look. We were just being told about how the placenta is like a uterus tree watered by blood or something. It was the worst. We don't need to keep talking about it. I'm just going to hit play. Let's see what Menton has for us now.
I had a friend called ASA Gray. ASA Gray was a scientist. He was not a Christian, and he wasn't entirely convinced Darwin had an explanation for things. And so he...
I want to point out ASA Gray. I actually have looked into this, and other people have sent me sources on ASA Gray. ASA Gray was not only not an atheist, something that Menton had earlier sort of accused him of being. ASA Gray was a devout Christian his entire life. Like, he was active, church-going, Trinitarian. I think he was like a Presbyterian or something like that, right? Like something that even David Menton would recognize as a faithful Christian, right? Not even going into the whole like, oh, well, he was a Catholic and maybe, you know, David Menton wouldn't count the Catholics as Christian or something. Nope. Plain old devout Protestant. So, yeah, I'm just going to take a drink because we weren't sure last time, but we're pretty darn sure now that Menton is just making this up about ASA Gray. So here we go.
just bugged him all the time. And one of the things he bothered him with is, what about the bee's honeycomb, Charles? That's the least amount of wax you can use to enclose the maximum amount of honey. Does your theory explain that?
And of course it does, right? Now, it's a good question, right? Like, how do you get to having such a efficient system of, well, you know, not just bee comb, but like hive structure in many hymenopterans? Because it's not just the bees that do this. Many social wasp species also have hexagonal comb structures. So also, for $4.99, Roastonite Illegal Taxon Keller says, Hank Green told me the placenta is baby meat. It has the baby's DNA. I mean, yeah, technically, that's... Okay, we're just gonna go on from there. So anyway, it actually turns out that you don't need to do anything particularly special to make the hexagon pattern. If you just start making things out of wax like bees do, or out of, say, like paper, like paper wasps, or mud, like mud dauber wasps make these out of, and you just start stacking circles around each other in a space-filling way, they naturally turn into hexagons. You can even see this with bubbles, right? If you, say, pour a beer, and you have just a thin layer of bubbles, and you look at them, the bubbles would be packed together in a way that preserves, that's basically the lowest energy way they can be, as tightly packed together as they can be. And what that will mean is it will turn into hexagonal shapes. So really all that has to happen is that the bee has to make a roughly circular chamber of the same diameter every time. And making, the sort of the arc that the bee turns at, I mean, that's an instinct. We know that instincts are genetic because we can do experiments with like breeding different animals with different instinctual behaviors and getting blended behaviors out of the young without ever having to teach them to do a blended behavior between those two, adult behaviors. And so, yeah, the hexagon just kind of results naturally. Hexagons just are the space-filling option for, well, a hexagonal structure is the space-filling option for a 2D grid of, circles, basically. And so, yeah, that's just how it is. Now, I don't know if Darwin had this explanation to hand. I don't know. I guess ASA Gray didn't. But yeah, that's what it actually is.
Well, there's what the honeycomb look like. Perfect hexagons.
Well, I mean, except they're not, right? Like, they're visibly different from each other. They're not all regular hexagons. And one of the things that you'll notice is that the interior is actually roughly circular, and that's because that's what actually is going on. The bees are actually making circles, but because they're connected together, the lowest energy state kind of pulls the wax into this hexagonal shape. Like, it's neat, but it doesn't require some kind of magic or miracle or special planning on the part of the bees. It's just what happens when you try to fill a bunch of circular shapes in as tightly packed as they can be. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's just what you're gonna get. And making a circle is as simple as just kind of turning continuously as you try to make cells. Like, that's it. Like, once you make one cell in a comb, and then you go to make another one adjacent to it, as long as you keep going in a roughly circular pattern, you're going to get hexagons. As long as you have roughly equally sized circles that you're making. I really don't know how much more I can say that this just isn't some kind of miracle that requires some deep explanation. It's just the basics of geometry. Like, really, it is. I don't know. I can't emphasize enough how much of a non-thing this is. I mean, it is cool, don't get me wrong. For $4.99, Rosina, let me make sure I get the name right, Illegal Taxon Keller, thank you very much. The Saturn has a hexagon cloud formation and its north pole. Intelligent design. Actually, the hexagon on Saturn is, if anything, better evidence than this, because currently we don't have a great explanation for it. So at least you could put the god of the gaps into that gap. Whereas for this, there just isn't a gap. It's just nothing. It's like saying, columnar basalt, how it also forms hexagonal structures. It forms them for the same basic reason, right? And in the same way that columnar basalt doesn't need a columnar basalt god to specifically design these hexagonal basaltic pillars, like you might see in Causeway of the Giants over in Ireland. Similarly, this doesn't need any special explanation. It's just geometry.
You just see the bees out there with the little protractors and everything getting 120-degree angles at the corners?
No, because you're not actually making corners. I'm going to take a drink, because that's dumb. Bees don't make the corners. The corners form as a result of the tension on the circular structures that they're actually making when they're connected to everything else. The same way that if you surround one bubble with 6 more bubbles, the bubble in the middle will be hexagonal shaped. That's all this is. No one needs a protractor. In fact, the bees make this as a circle by just kind of continuously turning. If you think about it this way, suppose you had a stick, right? You're outside in, like, on the beach or something. So there's sand that you can draw a shape in. And so you stick the stick in the ground at a particular angle from you, and then you turn in a circle. You will make a circle. If you step to the side, put the stick back at the same angle, and now you're in a new location, and spin again, you'll make an adjacent circle. And then if you do this again so that you have 2 adjacent circles, you will start making this hexagonal pattern. And the areas between the circles will have a bunch of extra space that forms the corner of the hexagons. And you don't need a protractor to do this. And sure, it's not going to be perfect, but again, Neither are these beehives. These aren't perfectly regular circular structures in a perfectly regular hex grid. Like, that's just not what we're seeing. No, Ramda puts for $5 says, according to all known laws of aviation, bees should not be able to make hexagons. You know what? I'll agree. The laws of aviation do not seem to explain how bees make hexagons. Love it.
Well, Darwin wrote a letter back to Asa Gray. In the letter, he says, your letter actually turned me sick with panic.
Okay.
Boy, Asa Gray really spun his crank, didn't he? He did remember the peacock tail?
Oh, Too Young to Feel This Old has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Max P, Curious, Nerd, Kidda, Quiet Fern, 1027, Autumn Meep, and Poor Claire. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the channel memberships, those of you who are new. Make sure you link your Discord to this account that you just got a membership on, and you will see in the connections on your Discord, there's a list of servers that you're allowed to get to because of your YouTube connection. Mine should be on there. Feel free to click it. Here come 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you so much. Yeah, also, Darwin was kind of known for having a weak stomach. He frequently connected his digestive maladies with his emotional state, and it seems like that was a big part of his life overall, was whenever he would become emotionally disturbed by anything, he would get nauseated, or he would have some kind of bowel problem or something like that. That seems to be a thing that just happened to him a lot. I don't know if there's any kind of diagnosis that's possible, especially since, he's not exactly available for medical examination. But yeah, Darwin's saying that this made me sick, or this made me feel nauseated or upset to my stomach or anything like that. That's just in so many of his letters. It doesn't mean a whole lot.
That was Asa Gray again. Man alive, he didn't let up on him. Darwin went on to say that this is the most wonderful of instincts. Beyond this stage of perfection in architecture, natural selection could not lead. For the comb of the hive bee, as far as we can see, is absolutely perfect in economizing labor to wax.
I mean, it is. That's true. But the thing is, because it's an instinctual behavior, it is subject to change via mutation, which Darwin didn't know about, right? You gotta remember, even the word mutation didn't come about until decades after Darwin's death. Darwin never knew anything about how inheritance actually worked. But what's actually happening is that because this is a genetically driven behavior, an instinct, changes to the genes can cause changes to the behavior. And if you have 2 different hives, one of which is spending extra metabolic and just activity on making inefficient use of wax or mud or paper or whatever, right? Because, wasps are doing this kind of thing too. And hey, here's the real secret. Bees are just a subgroup of wasps, right? Some wasps are more closely related to bees than they are to other wasps, which means bees are just wasps, but a particular subset. But anyway, if one of those groups is doing it at a more efficient ratio of like how much wax or paper or whatever they're spitting out per, rotation of their body, then they're going to have less effectiveness in terms of like reproduction. Now, it's a little bit more complicated, right? Because it's not the workers who build the nest who are then going to be the reproductive members of the colony. But you have to remember, every single second that a worker bee spends making the nest is one that they're not spending gathering food for the larvae and for the queen and for the other nest members. Which means that overall, the hive is going to be less healthy, which means that the queen will have less chance to produce as many breeding new queens or drones. So it's going to affect the reproductive output, which means that the more efficient nests, which again is genetically controlled, so mutations can change this, they're more likely to have more breeding members go out for their nuptial flights. And so they're going to result in more hives in the future. Got a couple things to read. Nope, 3 things to read now. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, that's why Darwin hated survival of the fittest. Yeah, survival of the fittest is really not a great way to explain natural selection, and Darwin knew that. And then we have Steve G. Clinard, who's been a member for 4 months, who says, Karens are a subset of wasps. I can't really disagree with you there. And then Rael Gatubello for $2 says, Yanitlar. Oh, is this? I'm not even sure what we're going for. Yaret Silista Santa? Yaraklar? You know what? I don't know, but I'm going to assume that that is a AIG is a bag of dicks, and I'm going to take a drink for it. If it's not, oh well, I took an extra drink. So, yeah, by the way, you are very much welcome to put AIG is a bag of dicks in whatever language, but if I don't know what the language is, please assume I'm going to pronounce it horribly. Also, Bugged Out, it's your birthday? Happy birthday, everyone. Send some happy birthday messages to Bugged Out. That's pretty cool. I'm glad that you are also a June birthday, just like me. All right, here we go.
In other words, he said that hexagonal arrangement, that's as far as natural selection could go. That just takes it to the top.
Yeah, but there's no reason to think that, given the fact that, bees often have a generation time of like a year or two, that over the hundreds of millions of years that wasps have been building nests, that this wouldn't have reached some high level of efficiency. It's not that hard to vary the amount of whatever substance that you put down in your nest. Like, this is not that complicated. Goop23 for $5 says, it's only bees if it's from the Abiel region of France. Oh, sorry. Abiel region of France. Otherwise, it's sparkling wasps. Yes, of course. But of course, being a United Statesian, I don't have to worry about those silly EU labeling rules. That's why I can drink the champagne of beer if I want to, which I usually don't, but I could.
Is that true?
Is what true? That it's very efficient? Yes.
Take a look at this picture right here. Those are soap bubbles floating in water.
Wait, is he doing my job for me and pointing out that this is just kind of what happens when round things connect to each other? Thanks. I mean, yeah, those are more irregular than the beehive, but then again, they weren't created by a bee kind of spinning in a circle, which, means that it's largely dictated by the bee's anatomy, which is going to be pretty much the same from one hex to the other. A left-handed Jedi who's been a member for 7 months sends what looks like a blank membership. Left-handed Jedi, if you meant to send a message with that, please tag me, and I will try to make sure that I read that out.
Single layer of soap bubbles. My lab tech called it a unibubular layer.
I'm going to call that a joke that didn't land. Only will sound like one person laughed besides Menton. Plus, I like Baja Blast.
Those bubbles form hexagons spontaneously.
Mm-hmm.
This is a law of nature.
Mm-hmm.
It is a law of close packing.
Yep, so it doesn't require some kind of special explanation. It's not some kind of hard thing to understand how this would evolve if you're just making round things in a circle.
You take a bunch of pennies, put them on a table, push them as tight as they can go. Each penny will be surrounded and touched by 6 pennies.
You know what? He's right. I'm taking a drink. I don't know why he seems to be doing my job for me. Roasting an illegal tax on Keller for 99 cents sends a otherwise blank super chat. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Let's see. All right, here we go.
Not 7, not 5. And if you could squeeze them together till you squeezed out all the spaces, you get hexagons.
Yep.
So you see, you don't need an enzyme for this, you don't need a protein for this. This is a law of nature, a law of hexagonal close packing. This is kind of where evolution's going. Can we find more things like that that can give us some order, that can give us some structure? So Darwin got bamboozled.
Yeah. Darwin wasn't omnipotent. What is... I don't get it. Someone please explain to me what point Menton is trying to make, because at this point, I just don't know. I thought he was going to try to say that, like, only God could create this perfect hexagonal pattern, but then he just points out, no, this is just what happens. Which means, yeah, we don't need a fancy evolutionary explanation for this. It's just how making circles tightly packed works. I'm gonna lose it. I don't even know.
By the way, a solitary wasp just makes one cell. And it's a cylinder. Basically do this, you make a cylinder around yourself.
Yes, exactly. But that's just what the bees are doing. They're just doing it over and over again. Why is that some kind of mystery that we need God to explain? What is happening? Why? I honestly, you know what? I'm being bamboozled here. I thought that David Menton was a creationist who was trying to point out problems with evolution. And here he is going on about how this is actually not really some big mystery of the universe. This is just how geometry works. For $1.99, Rosina Illegal Taxon Keller says Darwin is a false god? I mean, I would rather just say that Darwin isn't a god of any kind, false or true, because that just seems weird to me. Darwin being treated like a god? Not into it, really. That's weird. My Control V seems not to be working terribly well. That's unfortunate. So I will have to manually type something in. Thank you very much. And which also means that I did accidentally set the fundraising tracker back a little bit, which means Dapper's a professional. Here we go.
But you get a bunch of bees doing this together, and those cells pack against one another like the soap bubbles. You get a hexagon.
Yeah.
Hexagons are widespread in nature. For example, covering the organs of our body, if you open up the body and look inside, is like a drape. It's called the mesothelium, or the mesentery. And if you outline the cells of the mesentery, they're hexagonal.
Well, I mean, roughly. Those aren't exactly the neat regular hexagons from the beehive, but yeah, they're roughly hexagonal. Very roughly. But again, and this is just what we should expect, evolution or no, because, like, you want to tightly packed shapes in 3D? Well...
Lining of blood vessels are hexagonal. Lining of the heart is hexagonal. All simple epithelia, ultimately packed together, is hexagonal. It's a law of nature. Now, we're talking 2 dimensions, aren't we? Just 2 dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I did mean 2-dimensional when I said that earlier. Yeah.
Basically, circles, when pushed together in 2 dimensions, become hexagons. Here's an interesting question for you. If circles become hexagons, what do spheres become?
Well, I mean, if you're packing them in a single layer, also hexagons. But, like, I don't know. Dodecahedra? Is it dodecahedra? Because I don't actually remember. I think it's dodecahedra, though.
Now, as we go into 3-dimensional space, what happens there? That wonderful creationist, Lord Kelvin, figured this out about 130 years ago. It forms a structure called the orthic tetrachedecahedron. It's a 14-sided
so close. Oh well.
Polygon. This represents essentially the minimum partition of 3-dimensional space. Soap bubbles packed in a froth, and there was more than one layer, within the interior of the froth will approximate that shape. Notice that, at least oriented one way, they form columns. These columns go vertically up through.
What is his point here? I am so confused by how he thinks that this is an important thing to be telling us right now.
Well, you look at pith in the stem of a plant, in this case in an elder plant. The longitudinal axis through the plant, you can see we have these hexagonal structures that are arranged in columns. This is this close packing phenomenon that produces these columns of cells in pith.
Yeah, but Menton, that just means that it doesn't actually have to be hard-coded genetically, which means that you don't even need an evolutionary explanation for this. All you just need is geometry and the fact that things tend to find the lowest energy state available to them based on the forces acting on them. And if there's a cohesive force between these cells, and they're in a 3D structure, they will form a tight-packed shape. With or without any kind of special genetic coding. What? Guys, I am extremely confused. I'm almost confused by this, as I am by the fact that there are 102 people watching, but only 45 likes. which unfortunately means that I have to say once again, I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve, so please hit that like button so I don't have to keep quoting Bilbo at you.
If you look at a cross-section of the stem and look down the columns, you see, what you have on the right. Hexagons going down the column.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, elder plants. What about the younger plants? Yeah, that is a good question. What about the younger plants? I don't know. I don't think creationism has answers for us about the younger plants.
Now, here's a little interesting side story I want to share with you. Back in 1665, Robert Hooke designed one of the very first microscopes that was used. And one of the things...
I think he meant to say invented, but I'm pretty sure I just heard him say discovered, which... pretty sure that's not how it worked, but you know what? I'm sure that was just a slip of the tongue. I'm not going to harp on it.
Things he looked at with his microscope was cork, like bottle cork, which is really plant.
Oh my goodness, we have someone coming in here. Vishanti. Oh, you know, just watching some David Menton, where he was telling us how you don't actually even need evolution to explain the structure of beehives. It's just...
Oh.
Yeah, like, you just don't. Like, I don't even know why he's bothering. It's very strange.
Oh.
He's like,
okay.
Look, this thing that evolution doesn't even need to explain is a thing that exists. It's like, yup. Sure is.
Sounds about right.
Yep. He might as well just, like, point at, like, I don't know, like, a rock. Like, a piece of, like, granite or something. Like, oh, see, evolution can't explain this granite. Like, also true. I don't know why you would want it to, but okay. But, you ready for me to hit play on this?
Sure, let the pain begin.
Well, not before I read from Rosina Illegal Taxon Keller for $4.99. Wait, all the stuff about hexagons was not the side story? Yeah, I don't... Honestly, Rosina, I am lost at this point. It is making absolutely no sense to me at this point. I don't know what his point with this is, but at least it's not uterus trees made of blood. So, you know.
Cursed.
Yeah.
That's so cursed.
This is less cursed than that. So you know what? Little blessings, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Cambium from a plant. And he noticed that in the cork, the cells were in a row. That was this...
I know he said cork, but his accent makes it sound like cork.
Yeah.
Like the kind of cork that you would put in a wine bottle.
Yep. Actually, I think he is talking about
I just wanted
the kind of cork you put in a wine bottle.
What?
You're talking about thin sections of cells. And some of the first cells that were ever...
I sit corrected.
Yep. All right. Let's see. For two... I do not remember our then dollar. Is it reals? I'm gonna go with reals. I know I was getting on Erica for this the other day.
Brazilian.
Yeah, the Brazilian real.
Yeah.
Jill's husband, Kimono Dragon, for 2 Brazilian reals says, it's working? I mean, if by it you mean your ability to super chat, then yes, it is. If by that you mean something else, then I'm not sure.
Lacking phenomenon again. In fact, in the scanning electron microscope, I took a picture of what Hooke was seeing, only I had a lot better resolution than he had. And he saw these little boxes in continuous long rows.
Yeah, man, that's how cells are going to arrange themselves if there's an attractive force between them, which there is. Stephen G.
How do valences work?
Yeah, basically. Stephen G. Clinard for $5 says, can evolution explain the popularity of Gallagher? I don't think so. I agree. I don't think so either. Although I would think that, say, various social aspects of human behavior probably explains. DM Google Debunker Wing says, Dapper having an Erica moment. Hey, Yeah, it took me a lot less time to remember Brazilian real, and I'm probably not going to forget for the rest of the stream. Unlike Erica, who had to be told for like the first 8 or 9 times in a row.
I mean, I didn't keep that in my memory. I literally just Googled it. So
I got real.
you're gonna try to lie about that?
Yeah, I got real without googling, but I forgot that that was the Brazilian currency because I've never been to Brazil. Although we go to Brazil a lot in my Power Rangers game that I play on Wednesdays sometimes. Yeah, that's where the base of operations is. It's in Brazil, and I told all of my
I happen
players.
to know giant monkey and lizard went there.
Nice.
Along with a big ice puppy.
Yeah, I told all my players that, like, hey, we're going to be setting this in Brazil as your home base. And, like, one of them bothered to have their character know Portuguese. Like, one.
Oh,
So,
dang.
Yeah, they were just like, nah, I don't need to. And I was like, okay, sure, that's what you want. That's fine. But, Jill's husband, Kimono Dragon, for 10 Brazilian real says, oh, yeah, no, I don't speak Portuguese, but, respostas em Genesis é bando de pintos muchos. This was much harder than I expected. Lol, good stream, best non-avian dino of the Holocene. Thank you very much. And sorry for slaughtering some Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese. I can usually read it reasonably well, but that's basically just because it's like if you speak Spanish and French.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you tried to speak Spanish, but through your nose and with a somewhat weird French accent, you would get close.
Just like Italian is like Spanish, but up and down.
Yes.
It's bouncy Spanish. Look, I will relate every Western Romance language to Spanish eventually.
It's so different.
Italian is bouncy Spanish. Just get over it.
He thought that they looked like the rooms that monks live in, in a monastery. They're called cells.
Yep.
And that's how we got the name cell.
Take a drink. That's accurate.
Because of the cells in a row, which is related to this close packing phenomenon. Well, I was aware of all that, and so years ago we were approaching a problem in skin, and that's the dead layer on the surface of the skin where you see the yellow area there. I was interested.
This is why you should exfoliate.
Yes, but also I got to point out to Menton, who I know he can't hear me. That's not the yellow area. That's the blue area indicated by the yellow arrow. Like,
Yeah.
So, okay.
And how are the cells arranged? There must be some kind of close packing phenomena there.
I'll bet they're arranged into hexagons. Oh my goodness.
But we couldn't quite make out positions of the cells. So with a special technique I won't get into, we swelled the cells up, and we did.
I don't ever need to hear Menton talking about swelling.
The chat. Does that mean Latin is pre-Spanish?
Yes. Yes, it is. Literally.
Even Luvalar is laughing at that. Italian and Spanish, but up and down. Like, it is!
I'm not wrong about this.
That's actually pretty great, though, because, like, if you know Spanish or Italian, you usually can pick the other one up in about a day.
Yeah,
they're that close.
They are very similar.
Yeah.
Behold, they're arranged in columns, just like poker chips in a casino, I've been told.
I was about to say, how would you know?
I guess that technically landed, and I hate that. But Joshua Geese just gifted
I'm a good Christian, I don't gamble.
Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you very much. They went to Flum666, Leibenswerdig Schussel, Mr. Anderson, Nikki Daily Gaming, and Nasty Hobbits. Thank you very much. I will take 5 drinks. Here we go.
Alex Markel says, so Latin is also pre-Romanian?
Yes.
I would posit that Latin is anti-Romanian.
Sticking with the Latin prefix, huh? Although, don't the Romanians call their own language like
so much like? Well, Romanian has like a crap load of like Dacian influence and like just a little whiff of Hungarian, and then a butt ton of like Slavic. So,
and they were like,
yeah, it's
the
fun.
only Romance language. It was like, hey, noun cases are actually pretty cool. What if we just kind of didn't get rid of them?
Yeah. Yep, it is quite unique in that regard.
Yeah.
But like French, it has a circumflex, and the circumflex marks some of the things that it carried over from Latin. So you can actually do a little bit of reverse like etymology or detective work on that front if you know how the circumflex.
Well done, Romanian. Well done.
Well done.
Also, way to be the only extant Eastern Romance language.
Yes. Yes.
Not only that, but if you look at the edges there, where the cells in adjacent columns meet, they interleave perfectly. I never saw two together. They were always just like this, perfectly interleaved. In fact, if we take the area in the...
Perfectly?
Yeah, but okay. Menton, you already mentioned that this was a law of nature, that this is just how physics and geometry work together. So saying that this is some kind of problem for evolution is like saying it's a problem for evolution as to figure out like how land animals stay on the ground and don't float away, right? And the answer is just gravity. The answer to this is basically the same thing. This is just how physics works. Unless you want to say that evolution should make organisms immune to the laws of physics, which no one thinks, I don't understand what the point of this is. I really don't. I don't get it. But that's okay.
Hollow box, and we blow it up in the electron microscope, transmission electron microscope, we notice that here is a cell coming in from the right. It comes, very touchy here.
Oh.
A cell coming in from the right, then one from the left, one from the right, one from the left, one from the right. At this magnification, the cells would be a block off that way, the other edge. But here where they're interleaving, it's a perfect regular interleave. These are the dead cells in our stratum corneum of our skin.
Yeah, but if you push two things like that together that get thicker in the middle, and there's any offset at all, they're going to interleave. Right? If they taper towards the edge, they're going to interleave. That's just, again, basics of how physics works. I don't know what the significance of this is supposed to be. This isn't even something that you need genetics for. This is just physics.
And it dawned on me, this is probably a close packing phenomenon.
Yeah,
so
probably.
in studying it, lo and behold, that was the case.
Take a drink. Yeah.
If you looked at the columns edge on, they're in perfect stacks. If you look down the top, they're hexagonal. And I was able to demonstrate that...
Well, they're approximately hexagonal, but sure.
Basically a truncated form of this close packing structure, the orthic tetrachedecahedron, accounted for the column architecture. And there was evidence for that when we looked at the cells in the scanning scope. Notice that this particular polygon has alternating four-sided and six-sided faces, and that's what we saw looking at the overlapped edges of the cells in the skin. So here is a spontaneous phenomena. It is a law of nature. It produces a seemingly marvelous column structure, and evolutionists are going to be looking for this kind of thing to try to explain how we managed to get...
Mm-hmm.
Is ice alive?
No.
Does ice, like way up in the atmosphere, does that form hexagonal crystalline structures?
It sure does.
Does that, refract light and make cool stuff happen around the sun? Is
Yes.
that evolution?
No.
Weird.
It's very weird, apparently. For $4.99, Roasting an Illegal Taxon Keller says, remember, this is a side story to his Hexagon side story. Yeah, we're multiple tangents deep at this point, but he planned for the tangents.
That's why I was like, hey, that's why I'm just going to talk about like the phenomenon behind sundogs, which we were watching last night.
Yeah, we were. Yep. Yeah.
structure and order. But boy, have they got their work cut out for them. Let's just analyze this. I fly in airplanes quite a bit, and the other day when I was looking out the plane, there was nothing down there but air.
Why is it wobbly?
not only why is it wobbly, why are we onto airplanes after beehive? Like, what? You know, I don't know. I don't care. I'm just gonna hit play.
Non
And I
sequitur?
wonder what
Probably.
keeps this thing up in the air. Is it a flying carpet or what?
It's lift.
Oh my god!
Is he gonna go
I
through
really hope
a
he doesn't
whole-
try to, like, explain how aerodynamics works. That's gonna be painful.
Yeah, I think he's about to explain lift to us, like right now. Why is this a thing?
Then it dawned on me, man alive, I was sitting in the middle of 6 million non-flying parts. I got on the internet and asked, how many parts in the Boeing 747.
Oh my god.
Hey,
Dapper,
Yeah.
our plane's alive.
Let me check. Hold on. I got it. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know. Are planes alive? No. No, planes are
Weird.
not alive, turns out.
Weird.
Yeah. Also, I gotta say, hey, David, did you know that if you chop anything up into tiny little bits, it won't do the thing it did before you chopped it into bits? Okay.
I'm pretty sure if you took something that was alive and chopped it into little bits, it wouldn't do the thing that it was doing previous.
Depends. If it's a sponge, it sure will.
True.
You can shove a sponge through a fine sieve and separate all that out, and it'll just grow a whole bunch of new sponges. Sponges are cool like that.
That's 6 million, mostly rivets. And I thought there isn't a part in this plane that flies.
I mean, I would argue that they
What?
all fly,
Okay.
unless it's a Boeing plane, in which case some of them just drop.
Yike.
Yeah,
Yike.
shade on Boeing. You know, there are apparently 2 astronauts stranded in the ISS because of a Boeing rocket having problems, and they've been stranded there for like 11 days. They were supposed to be back 11 days, but the Boeing rocket was just like, nah, we can't. Boeing needs to just be shut down. I'm sorry. Get new company. Rosina, illegal tax and color for $1.99 says, plain sonas are alive and strangely attractive. If you say so.
What makes the plane fly? What would I need to put this thing together? None of those parts fly, but what would I need if I wanted to assemble it and get a flying plane?
I don't know, a welding torch, some wrench. What is the question even? I don't even know.
Instruction manuals, right?
I guess, yeah, but you're going to need a lot more than that.
I have
We
a friend
call
who's
all
a
those
commercial airline pilot, and wherever he is right now, I guarantee just like face palmed and doesn't know why.
parts complex. You can't fly complexity.
What? Yeah, you're right. You know what, Devin? I'll take a drink because this is both true and extremely stupid. You can't fly abstract concepts. I agree. Just like you can't fly love or the English language. Things that you can't fly. Got it.
You know what? Counterpoint. Love, lift us up where we belong.
Okay, I guess you can fly love, but that's the only one.
Have you heard people say, how can you believe the eye formed by chance is too complex?
Well, I don't believe it formed by chance. I believe that there were strong selection pressures that acted on diversity that arose by chance in a way that formed better and better image, capturing structures. In fact, Darwin actually explained the whole process. Like, this has never been a mystery. The eyes have always been well explained by natural selection. Always, since the origin of species.
That's not the issue. You've just said, how can you believe the eye formed by chance? Sure, a lot of parts in the eye.
Yeah, I guess. Take a drink. That's true. And oh my goodness, none of them on their own can see things. Well, except, the light receptive cells, which can. But whatever.
There's a lot of parts on the runway. You can't fly it. Complexity is not the issue. You see, you'd get the manuals, and once you had the manuals, we call that specified complexity.
Oh, so we're just going with the William Dembski thing. Okay. So before we get too far into this William Dembski thing, I just want to point out that William Dembski's specified complexity thing has been looked over by multiple mathematicians, because ultimately it's a mathematical argument about information theory. Vishanti, would you like to guess just how much support specified complexity has gotten as a thing in math that means anything from mathematicians who have looked at this mathematical book?
You know, I'm really bad at these guessing games about proper knowledge of STEM fields, but I'm gonna go with, fuck all.
Yeah, no, that is accurate. Literally no one who's a mathematician who's looked at this has said, yeah, no, this makes mathematical sense and is a valuable contribution to information theory. Yeah. Specified complexity is just a bunch of sophistry that at the end gets you to, well, then I guess animals had to be made by God because of math that doesn't work, but that you probably wouldn't know it doesn't work unless you're a mathematician. Great.
Is it better or worse, define this how you like, than 1 times 1 equals 2? Like, how does this stack up against teriology?
I would say it makes as much sense, but it's less fundamentally wrong. The errors are much more advanced and require much more knowledge of actual mathematics and like the complexity of information theory. So the errors are less fundamental, and it takes a lot more knowledge of mathematics and information theory to debunk it. So I would say it's
Can you
better.
draw cool pictures with it?
No, which I will say that gives
Well,
that does make the what was Terranceology? What was it? What would you call it?
teriology.
Teriology, yeah. That makes teriology better in the sense that, yeah, it can use it for art, unlike specified complexity. And to be fair, I do like the art that, you know, he put in that book of the cool shapes and whatnot.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to do that art, I probably wouldn't be easy for me. I would have to spend a lot of time doing a lot of math. So, good job. But yeah, here we go.
Remember, that was one of the criteria for a law of nature. Is it specified? Specified.
I actually don't remember that, and I'm not sure that I agree that
Yeah,
a law of nature needs to be
know where
specified.
he's going with that.
Yeah, I don't even know what he means by that. That a law needs to be specified. Do you mean like it needs to have specific conditions? Because yes, but that's just because that's how laws work. I don't. Yeah.
Complexity means that you shall take the parts and put them together as follows. Do not deviate. Part A goes with B down the line.
But that's not how organisms develop, right? Organisms aren't made of separate parts that like just come together from separately built parts that you have to then assemble. Let's see. Fits of you can't fly complexity range. Just skipped it a membership and it went to Matt B to the first. And I will take a drink for that. Thank you very much.
Amazing. And also, thank you, chat, for getting that Red Hot Chili Pepper song in my head.
So-
is my arrow. That's also from the Dave Navarro era of Red Hot Chili Pepper. Quite liked.
Nice. So, one of the things about embryology, right, is that you don't ever just take parts until you're getting down to like the molecular level and like bolt them together. What's happening is that cells are growing by division. They are differentiating. They're dying in different cases. And so it's not like you have to, like, in order to grow an eye, you don't have to start by first growing a cornea and then also growing like an iris and then also growing like an optic nerve. And then you have to take them from all over your body and shove them together into an eye, right? The whole thing grows
I've had
as a
my
unit.
corn farm for 5 generations. It's not anything special. It's simple work, but it's not much, but
Honest work. There you go.
having a cornea farm.
Yes. It's growing all the cornea.
Yeah.
Cornea? I don't know. Hey, guys, put in chat what you think the proper plural for cornea is.
How's your
Once you
cornea
get-
harvest looking this year, Jeff?
Oh, mighty fine. Got a few that are colorblind, but that's okay.
It assembled. Why is
Yep.
it able to fly? It's able to fly due to integrated complexity. That is, the parts work together.
Oh, it's a new thing. Jeez.
Oh, it's a new thing. Oh, okay.
When you follow the specified complex instructions, you get integrated complexity. Fun. Hey, we now have a derivation of the idea that already doesn't mean anything, according to, everyone who knows what they're talking about who's looked at it.
I would have guessed, perhaps incorrectly, that it was a combination of aerodynamics and the pilots, but what do I know?
Yeah, no, that's obviously false. It's because of the integrated complexity.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah.
To write this down and call my pilot friend and be like, so, where in your pilot training did you learn about integrated complexity and wait and count the number of seconds that he pauses before he just, like, explodes from the studio?
Together in concert. In fact, that's a good name for it. I like to go to the symphony here in Cincinnati. I go early to hear them tune up. Have you heard a symphony tune up?
Yes, I've heard a symphony tune up.
I've played in symphonies that have tuned.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, whatever.
Worst sound you ever hear.
No, I've listened to you, David Menton. I've listened to David Menton talk about blood-filled uterus trees. That's a far worse sound. Just gonna put that out there. Nothing.
Also, yeah, no.
No sound that a symphony is gonna make is gonna ever trump uterine bark as the horrors of, things you could hear.
Listen, I mean, I used to teach middle school beginner band. Trust me, that a symphony tuning is not the worst sound.
Yeah, there is that too. Or like you give like a toddler a recorder and they just start blowing on it. I'm like, oh no. Look, if any of you ever want like your friends with kids or family members with kids to just absolutely hate your guts, get their kid a recorder. They'll hate that. Not the kid. The kid's gonna love it. The parents are going to absolutely hate you. But maybe that's what you're going for.
Ollie asked me, what do I play? In orchestra, I played the timpani. That was my home. And I became a symbiotic entity with the low brass section. Because, like, every day I would go in and I would calibrate the little thing, slides on the timpani. Because, like, the humidity can change that day, or the temperature of the room, the air. But it didn't matter how mathematically perfect the tuning was on that timpani, because if the rest of the band is flat that day, by God, I'm going to be flat.
Yep.
So I had to, I would go in and get my initial calibration, and then when everybody else came in and they started doing their warm-ups and stuff, I would adjust to them.
Yeah.
That was my job. So
roasting an illegal taxon
I developed
color.
A very good ear.
Nice. Roasting an illegal taxon color for $4.99 says, why specify complexity making me think of siphonophore? I don't know, but siphonophores are pretty cool. Way cooler than those gross, pelagic tunicates. Gross.
I like siphonophore.
Okay.
I love tunicates.
I mean, tunicates are great overall. It's just the weird versions that are not okay.
But that's okay. One day you'll grow past the bigotry art, and we'll accept the pelagic tunicates. It's fine. They're just there waiting for
you. I don't need them to wait for me. They can just move along. Like move along home.
Follow you.
Right?
Fine.
No, it's just move along home. Like the worst episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Move along home.
We'll throw like a rave, kind of like the jellyfish pop.
We're gonna get a little bit more David Menton in, and then we're gonna go take a quick break. After I read this 2 Brazilian real super chat from Jill's husband, Jill's husband, Cornea Farm. Gotta get that in there. Who says AIG is a bunch of paus censored because YouTube. All right, we'll take a drink for that. All right, here's a little bit more Menton.
Big squawk, rumble, bang, tinkle. I mean, everything's going on at once. Then the conductor comes out. Everybody opens a score. Specification, the score. All open to the same page. Conductor sets tempo, dynamics, specification. They now all play together. And it sounds beautiful. And see right there, we went from the tune-up, which is mere complexity, to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which is specified and integrated complexity. The instruments are playing together in the orchestra.
No.
I don't even know how to parse this analogy. Here's what we're going to do. While Vishanti tries to make sure her head doesn't explode from all that nonsense.
Scanner style.
Yeah, basically. We are going to take a quick intermission, and I'm going to get myself a nice cold on ice hard Mountain Dew. I don't know which flavor it's going to be. I think it's either going to be the orange or the original flavor. And then we'll be right back. And in the meantime...
Everybody waved to my sister in the chat. It was her birthday 4 days ago.
Happy birthday! And in the meantime, hopefully, when I hit the intermission button, you guys will actually hear the musical stylings of one Beethoven, even though lately, apparently, OBS has been like, nah, I'm just going to mute that randomly, even though you specifically unmuted it. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen. See you in a few minutes. And we are back. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. There is currently a poll. Which hard Mountain Dew I'm going to have next? We've got just regular old, and we've got live wire. Those are the options. Both of them are...
Live wire is the correct choice.
No, it's your choice. They get to choose what they want. Right now...
And my choice is the correct choice. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Well, Now that we're back from our break, I want to say thank you very much to everyone. I was actually just thinking about it earlier today. This year started with YouTube giving me a false community guideline strike for me telling you not to go take pseudo medicine woo advice and to go actually see a real doctor. Yeah, that's how this year started. And
What about that?
you know what? It's okay because my channel took a hit after that. I'm not going to pretend it didn't. But you know what? Views are up. Subscriber counts are up. You guys are being extremely generous. So, that's why I could afford to buy myself a chair. Because,
Oh, yeah.
this time last year, that would have been like I don't know if I have that in the budget for a chair. I mean, come on, that's expensive. Maybe a beanbag chair. Maybe. But and I just want to say thank you so much, guys, because without all of your support, I wouldn't have made it this far. And yeah, granted, I'm not exactly, like the world's biggest YouTuber or anything, but you guys are making it possible for me to give you, in many cases, 5+ hours a week of content. And that takes a lot of work. It's not easy, and I can only do it because of your support. And if you're currently not supporting, but you're interested in doing so, and you can, most importantly, afford to do so, can't afford it, I absolutely do not want anything from you. If you can afford it and are interested, we have a number of ways for you to support the channel. First and foremost is the Patreons, where I get to keep most of the money. That starts at $1 a month. It can go all the way to $100 a month if you want to. You can go get a 15% discount if you go annual. You get access to my Discord server. You get access to my scripted videos early, often like 4 or 5 months early, like really early. You can watch there's a lot of Dapper Dino content that you could just binge right now. It would take you more than a day to get through all of it. And I mean, if you just didn't sleep or eat or do anything else, if you just watch Dapper Dinosaur content that's early access from now until it was done, it would take you more than a full day. And so that's a great way. There's also the channel memberships. There's a join button right below this video. By the way, the Patreon's in the description. If you click the join button, it starts at $1.99 a month. You can go all the way up to $20 a month if you want to. I think it's actually $19.99. Whatever, it's the same thing. And that also gets you access to the same Discord server, the same early access, but you also get, your name can go green in the chat. You get a cool little icon next to your name. You can also get special channel emojis. And again, you get access to the same Discord server and the same early access. At higher tiers, you can get your names in the credits. I'll even mention you out loud if you're at one of the higher tiers in the credits. So those are great options. If a monthly or annual thing isn't your deal, but you still want to help out, there's still other ways. If you look in the description, there's a how to render for me. My sheeped points, which is how I get these, fancy renders for my animations for each of my videos out. Those have been in a little bit of a decline. They're recovering. But if you want to help with that, you can just download the sheeped clients and run it with my username as well as the password that's linked in there. That's a special render key that only lets you render for me. You can't use it to sabotage my account. So, Lady Vitor says, you got a P.O. Box for fan mail, legit question. I'm needing dinosaur tea towels. I don't want to send it to you. I think, so I don't currently have a P.O. Box, but I think you can coordinate with Vishanti here, and she might be able to help you out. Vishanti, do you think you can? We can get.
Oh yeah.
We can get a way for you to.
Oh yeah.
Send me that.
Certain.
Yeah.
Certain.
Yeah. So let's see. I lost my train of thought. Darn it. Where was I? Oh, rendering. Right. So that's a great way. Now I can't say that that's completely free. If you pay if you're someone who's the one who pays the electric bill, it will cost a little bit of electricity. It's basically the same as running a computer game on your computer. And if you're, if electricity is covered by your rent, then it is free for you, or at least it's no additional charge. So there's that. There's also an Amazon wish list. Like I thanked someone earlier today for getting me the Gamma Quadrant source book for Star Trek Adventures. There's other books that are on there. There's other stuff too. There's I think there's a tiki mug on there. There's snacks. There's all sorts of stuff. There's even expensive stuff. So, and there's also a merch store. If you look below this video, you'll see a merch shelf. There's t-shirts, mugs, stickers, all sorts of stuff. If you don't like any stuff that's there, you can always click on any of them and it'll bring you to the full Teespring store where you can search through all sorts of extra stuff. Phone cases, baby onesies, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, those
Rosina
are some...
Keller's asking if I'm your mule.
I mean, for dino towels, yeah, you're my dino towel mule.
For dino towel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Not for anything else. Just the dino towels. Just dino towels. All right, and of course, if anything that's financial or costly in any way is something that you can't afford to do, please don't bother. But everyone, please like and share my videos. Watch a few in a row. It really helps with the algorithm and things like that. So with that being said, I am now seeing that it is time to end the poll, and we will see who or what won, because it's not a who poll, it's a what, I guess. What hard because they got rid of all the vowels in the first word, right? It's what hard should I drink? Livewire won with 60% of the 40 votes. So I crack open this cold one with everybody, because I can't say with the boys, because like that would be exclusionary. So here we go. I am pouring this Livewire. It is like radioactively orange. This might be the most orange thing I have ever consumed in my life. All right, here's more Menton.
Does it give you flashbacks?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Especially to RPG sessions, because man, I was definitely part of the Mountain Dew and like chips, like Mountain Dew and Doritos crowd for playing D&D.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm less so now because now I have somewhat more adult beverages most of the time, and I don't usually have a snack. But yeah. Anyway.
So the difference between order and complexity is also important. Some people think life's about order. That's why the evolutionists are getting excited about crystals. We can get an order. Hey, order.
What was that voice?
What?
But yeah, crystals do facilitate increasing order in certain reactions, like getting you to get like, you know, a single isomer mix, or at least one isomer predominant mix out of a racemic mixture of like, you know, chiral molecules. Yeah, like that's a thing that's kind of important for like, you know, origin of life. I don't know. Should it not be?
Anytime I hear about like chirality, homochirality and all that stuff, I just keep thinking of fucking James Tour with his chalk, Master Farina!
Yeah, yeah. Jeez, that whole debate was just a dumpster fire.
It was an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Roasting an illegal tax in Keller for $1.99. Drinking turtles wasn't an option? No, not that I'm aware of. Sorry.
When in the chat says, I'm excited about crystals because they are pretty. I concur.
Yeah, no, that's
pretty
a great
rocks.
reason to be excited about crystals. Look, I'm not someone who's like, oh yeah, crystal therapy, it's going to fix all your problems or anything. However, you know what? Having aesthetically pleasing surroundings helps boost your mood, and when your mood is up, you're more likely to get over various illnesses. So in that sense, I do think there is something to the whole idea of crystals making you healthier, in that they can make you happy by looking at them, and when you're happy, you tend to be better able to fight off medical problems. So
Yep.
You know what?
When happy chemicals go burr, the immune system also goes burr.
Oh, Fate to Gray dropped a membership chat. Oh, you did. I'm sorry about that. I did miss that. Fate to Gray, no true Dino Man, who's been a member for 25 months and is at the amniote level, says, is the existence of pelagic tunicates necessary for you to achieve greater good on this channel, or is the pelagic tunicate an inescapable result of sessile tunicates? I would argue that they are an unnecessary and escapable result of sessile tunicates. So that would be my conclusion there. And I'm sorry for missing that.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Thanks, dude.
Isn't what it's about. Here's a couple of fences here. One neighbor puts up the fence in the top, the other neighbor puts the fence in the bottom. Don't you worry about him?
I mean, whatever. I don't care. It's a fence. We could go through the whole line of questions about whether or not fences are alive. Yeah, there's that too.
Or in. Dun dun.
Which of those two fences has the most order? The top one.
Okay.
What?
Which is the most complex?
The bottom one.
The bottom one.
Hey, I was right. Take a drink,
A good way to
everybody.
know that is what's the smallest set of instructions you could write for the upper fence? You say start with a stack of short boards and a stack of tall boards, put up a short one, put up a tall one, continue in this fashion until you run out of boards. What about the lower fence? Oh my goodness, where do we start?
I mean,
Who cares?
yeah, I don't know what the point of this is, but yeah, he is right that the top one requires less information to specify than the bottom one. I mean, which seems to go against their normal arguments about information, because normally they're like, oh yeah, highly ordered stuff, that takes a lot of specificity and complex encoding, whereas randomness is just crazy randomness, but it's actually, the randomness takes a whole lot more information to encode in order to accurately reproduce it. So like, the bottom one has the greater Shannon information, which is the only measure for information that I've been able to find that you can actually, use units and compare with. Because like, oh, semantic information, yeah, you can't really measure that, but okay.
There are boards missing. There are short ones together, long ones together.
How
But
do you know
while
that
it's
there's
complete,
boards missing?
Well, I mean, I guess if you define boards as being, in a certain sequence with a distance between them, then you could identify gaps in that sequence. But you would have to start
It's
with
like
the
you
premise that
can't-
that's how you're going to define your boards.
Right, I'm like, unless you have the original instructions, you can't be like, oh, there's stuff missing. Like, you could build a fence that way on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Although if mostly you have boards that are evenly spaced and then there are gaps and the gap is exactly where a board normally would go and then the spacing resumes, in that case, you could argue that you can reasonably call some of those boards missing, but they're not missing in the sense that like they used to be there and now they're lost. They're missing in the sense that they're an interruption to the previous pattern. I guess.
complex. What's our question? Is it specified or integrated complexity? Bingo.
No
Your
one's
neighbor's
gonna
trying to
ask
communicate
that.
with you. He's using international Morse code.
I'm just going to take a drink. I have no idea how this is supposed to get me to therefore organisms didn't evolve.
This feels very close to crop circles, therefore aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Let's post Morse code, therefore God. Like, what are we doing here?
So I guess the long boards are dashes. Is that what we're going for? I don't actually know Morse code, everybody. Sorry. But yeah, I guess that's what we're going for is dashes are long boards and dots are short boards, and then the breaks are just letter breaks. I hate it.
Where
My
the dashes
stepdad knows Morse code from his time in the Coast Guard, but I bet if I showed him this, like, hey, can you decipher a message? He would look at me like I'm dumb.
I was in the Navy and I never learned Morse code because Navy doesn't use Morse code anymore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my stepdad, there's a generation.
Yeah.
Also, he was like a radio guy, so he kind of had to.
I was not a radio guy. Although I did get a radio guy to panic once after burning some arm hair.
Oh. Oop.
Well, I'll tell the story. It's a fun little story. So, I
Science kimono dragon nerd says some linguist doesn't know Morse code.
I know, right? I'm not a linguist. See? Evidence right there. I beat the charges. So I'm standing watch down in the reactor plant, right? And the reactor plant is where the actual engines on an aircraft carrier are like controlled. So the guy up in the conning tower will call down like what orders he wants for the engines, but then that gets put into a little what's called an engine order telegraph, which is just a dial that has different engine orders, and you just look to where it goes, and then you just do whatever you need to the controls to make the engine do that thing. Well, mine was like coming loose. The dials were just kind of going all over the place and flopping back and forth, and so I was relying on the other engine order telegraph because they're synced at this point. And so, but we had to get it repaired. So we call like the signalman, who they, in addition to being in charge of that, they're also doing all sorts of signaling and radio work and all sorts of stuff. And so before he gets down there, though, because normally they're not allowed in the reactor plant, they're only allowed there for this purpose. But before that, I grabbed another watchstander's lighter and I burned some human suit arm hair because I was wearing my human suit so I could fit in the chair. Doesn't matter. But yeah, he gets down there and he smells this like acrid scent, and he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, we just started smelling like that. I don't know. I think maybe it's smoking or something." And so this guy starts panicking, and he's like, "Oh, we have to go and secure the power. It might be on fire. What are we gonna?" And so he starts like running for the door, and yeah, that guy was not.
Well,
Yep. And I was like, "No, don't worry about it. That's just burnt hair." And man, that guy was not happy about that. He was very upset that it happened. I thought it was hilarious because you know what? I was in the middle of deployment, on the middle of watch, in the middle of the night. So it didn't take a whole lot for me to find something funny.
The dots, he's using short boards, and for the dashes, a long board. So that would be
Take a
did
drink.
it, da dit, did it, da dit, da da da, did da dit, on down the line. Wow.
I have never heard anyone vocalize Morse code like that, but okay, cool.
The neighbor has to know what language you speak, English, French, German. If it was more than
Actually, no, if it's Morse code and you know it's Morse code, then you don't actually need to know what language it is to transcribe it. You just need to transcribe it. Yeah. Now, if you want to read the transcription, then sure, you need to know what the language is. Or at least you need to know the language and then recognize it, I guess.
one word, he'd need syntax and grammar. And here we've spelled information. You see, the issue is not order. That's not going to get you anywhere. In fact, death is more like order.
I don't even know what that means.
What?
I'm just going to take a drink because that's just a meaningless statement.
A crystallization, a minimum free energy state where you don't go any further.
Okay, so what Menton is now telling us right now is that the less free energy you have, the more ordered you are. So remember, more entropy means more order, according to Menton right now. So
Okay.
just putting that out there, because normally creationists like to complain about how entropy just is disorder, and now he's saying the exact opposite, which is, that's a take.
You need the complexity, but it can't be just complexity. It has to be specified and integrated. And that's what we have in our genetic code. We have a coding system just like Morse code. And by the way, nobody's ever seen a coding system come into existence by chance. All code.
Okay, so let's take a drink. Here's the thing. DNA is only a code by analogy. It's not literally a code. You aren't actually, it isn't trying to communicate meaning to an entity with a mind who can understand things. DNA is just chemistry. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. It is only chemistry. And have we seen chemical systems come about through a combination of chance and the laws of chemistry and physics? Yeah, we see that all the time. Now, DNA is a particularly complex and, has a version of this chemistry and has a lot of very interesting interactions. But ultimately, that is what it is. It is a bunch of chemistry happening. It's not analogous to Morse code. You can't use it, or at least cells don't use it, to send secret little linguistic information packets between each other. It is just chemistry. And chemistry comes about through a combination of chance and the laws of physics all the time. Constantly. Right now it's happening. Almost everywhere.
Are the product of an intelligence. And that code codes for our proteins and gets them all in the right place.
By analogy, yes.
And what do the evolutionists say about that? Well, here's Professor Paul Davies, expert on the origin of life. So if you're going to find out how...
Okay, let's see what the status of the origin of life research was in 1999, some quarter century ago. Vishanti, I know that you're not like an expert on STEM fields, but do you think there has been any progress in like origin of life research in the last 25 years?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Just a bit. Jeez.
A little bit.
Now, to be fair to Menton, I mean, this thing was, I'm pretty sure this talk was given like 5 or 6 years ago, but still, that just means we're like 20 years ago for this now. So I guess a fifth of a century.
How the life has evolved, he's going to tell you. How did stupid atoms spontaneously write their own software, and where did the peculiar form of information...
Yeah, they just didn't.
Didn't. Not software.
needed to get the first living cell up and running come from? Definitive answer up there. Nobody knows.
Yeah, but...
Objection, Your Honor. Argument from authority.
Mm-hmm. And also, you know what I bet follows from that very thing? Is probably a whole long discussion about possibilities that we now know about, and that can help resolve this question, even if we don't know exactly which one is, in fact, the right answer. Also, for 199, Roasting an Illegal Taxon Keller says, chemicals is not code. I hate that trope so much with an angry face. Yeah, I do too. It just muddies the water. It's one of the reasons why I just generally don't like explaining genetics with analogies. Because people take the analogies too seriously. DNA isn't a code. It's not blueprints. It's not even really instructions in the traditional sense. It's just a bunch of chemistry. Now, granted, extremely complex and very cool chemistry. But there's no magic, there's no understanding, there's no mind. It's just a bunch of molecules doing molecules. And some ions.
One person knows. There is a book. And in...
But, Menton, the book just says God did it, and that's not an answer. That doesn't help us propose any new kinds of research. It doesn't give us any new technology. It doesn't make any predictions. It doesn't do anything. Even if it's true, it's scientifically useless to say, well, the Bible says God did it. Okay, great. The Bible also says that God led the Israelites to victory against various people groups of ancient Canaan. You know how useful that is for a modern general? Not at all.
Not at all.
You know how useful that would be to an ancient general from the Iron Age when the stories were set? Also not at all. God did it isn't an explanation that's useful in terms of what comes next. Right? Even if God did do the thing, if you then want to take that and extrapolate from that, what do? The only thing I can see from the Bible that's going to be military advice is, I guess sometimes if you decide to sacrifice your daughter, you get military victory. But hey, I don't think that's reliable, and I'm also not a big fan of daughter sacrifice, so maybe don't do that.
I mean, I would have gone with the whole psychological warfare tactic, because that was pretty... Joshua surrounding a camp at night, like blowing a bunch of like really loud horns and, you know, lighting torches and stuff to make him like freak out and think there's... I'm like, that's pretty good.
No, that's good stuff. So yeah, okay, there's some generalship advice in there. I'll grant that. That was a pretty cool move. But also, you know what it doesn't involve is God did it. Sure, in the narrative, Joshua gets the idea from God, but God doesn't create a miracle in order to scare the enemy camp. He just uses psychological warfare, because normally not everyone in your army would have a horn and a torch. But there's Joshua like, yeah, what if everyone had a horn and a torch? And it would sound like there's like 10 times as many of us. Yeah.
Hey man, this is the kind of stuff that worked for the Aztecs. You give people a death whistle and...
Oh yeah, scary stuff.
Just, you hear hundreds of people sounding like there's just a wave of people screaming bloody murder.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like...
I think the appropriate response is piss yourself and run away.
Right. And also, I have to say, like, the Bible is the claimant. It's not the evidence, right?
Yeah.
It's right. If you think about like a lawsuit, if I just come in and say to a court and I say, Vishanti owes me $3 million because she agreed to pay me $3 million in exchange for my next video, but then I made the video and she didn't give it to me. That's just a claim. Vishanti can very easily just point out, well, that seems like a ridiculous thing for me to do because I don't have that much money handy, unless she does and she's just not telling me. And also, like, there's no evidence that it did happen. And how would it have happened if there was no communication between us about this? Yeah. The Bible is the one coming in and saying, like, oh, hey, this guy owes me money. It's like, okay, do you have evidence for this? And the thing is...
Got any receipts?
Yeah.
Got a contract?
Does David have receipts for Genesis 1 through 11? No. No, he doesn't. So you can't just use the fact that Genesis 1 through 11 exists in order to argue for Genesis 1 through 11. That just gets you in the door to having a point of discussion. Right? Because no one's going on about how, you know, like, hey, I think Genesis 83 through 42, or sorry, not 40, through 92 is truth. Well, Genesis doesn't have 83 or 92 chapters, so no. So yeah, granted, you got to the table, right? You can now have a discussion about Genesis 1 through 11. But you can't use that as the evidence. I'm going to hit play before I keep ranting.
This book, we read in Luke chapter 1, verse 37, for
Oh, it's not even going to be Genesis. Okay.
nothing
Of
is
course.
impossible with God.
That helps even less. It's not specifically about anything in particular. I'm just taking a drink. Like, dude, at least come up with a Bible verse that actually makes the claim you're trying to defend.
If we go to Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4, we get a verse that's so beautifully simple, I can understand it. It says, for every house is built by someone, but he who built all things is God.
Hey, David, fun fact. Many Christians do not interpret that in a way that requires young earth creationism. Because look,
Also, I mean, if we're just going to go with what a thing says one time, I mean, there's one time that Bill and Ted were like, party on, dudes.
yeah, and be excellent to each other. Which, by the way, great advice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Why don't people believe that, huh?
Because not all of them believe that your God exists. But even if they do, that on its own, and then believing that verse, doesn't lead to young earth creation. It is perfectly compatible with theistic evolution, old earth creationism, progressive creationism. Like, it doesn't help. Or at least we're in the Old Testament.
How can ophthalmologists not see design in the eye and otolaryngologists not see it in the ear? This is why.
First, that's not why. That's a verse saying that
Yeah,
God
no.
has made them. But the reason why not is because there's no evidence of design. Which the thing is, I'm gonna take a drink because I gotta cool my brain off a little bit. A few episodes ago, early on in this, I think it might have been the first episode we did about Menton. Menton was pointing out how you recognize design, and one of his examples was I was gonna say Mount St. Helens, but that's not right. What's the one with the presidents? I can't
Mount
remember
Rushmore?
it. Mount Rushmore, there it is. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember the one with the presidents. Anyway, and he pointed out how there were aspects of things like there were machining marks and explosions that had cleared away stone that ran against the natural cleavage planes of the stone, which means that it doesn't fit the natural weathering patterns that we know of from rocks. Okay, great. That is a great point that he made there. That, yeah, we can detect design when things don't go according to the way that we're used to, for things like weathering and things like that, right? Okay, great. Awesome. What about the eyes like that? Because when an eye grows, there's no obvious miracle. And we know that eyes are affected by genetics, which are affected by mutations, which can be acted on by both selection and drift. And we see selection and drift going on in organisms. So there's no mystery. There's nothing about evolution that does not explain the origin and development of eyes. So how are you detecting the design? Harry Bronson for $5 says, has he never heard a rich person say, I built a house when describing the house they commissioned? Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. When someone says I built or someone built a thing, they often don't mean that person physically actually made the thing. Yeah.
Proverbs chapter 20, verse 12, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made both of them. No guesswork there. The Lord just says straight away, see the eye and the ear, I made them. What's the problem with that?
Well, I mean, as Carrie Bronson pointed out, physically that's not what happened. You grew your own eye.
Problem with that. Psalm 94, verse 9, this is scary if you're an unbeliever. He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? How well you figure the creator of the ear can hear?
My timbers shivered.
Yeah. I don't... Also, why are we switching between the KJV and the NKJV?
Because one translation specifically says what he wants it to.
Oh. Okay. Fun. Just shopping for different Bible translations.
Yeah.
Okay. You know?
Here are our thoughts. How well do you figure the creator of the eye can see into our hearts?
I mean, that's just going to show a bunch of blood, but okay. What?
Also, this is part of like a bigger bone to pick that I have with people that don't understand that there are different genres represented in the Bible. And
Sounds like
for
fake
instance,
news.
Psalms are poetry, largely, and songs and things like that. They aren't historical narrative. They're not doctrinal statements. And they're largely for, devotional purposes and inspiration and things like that. Yet, apologists like this just want to go picking anything that already supports their opinion, regardless of genre, regardless of linguistic or semantic intent. Just, it makes me... Even Triceratops is screaming in the chat as well. So,
I have one
drives
word.
me up the wall.
I have one word to add to that. And it is Selah.
This is the same creator that once said, "You shall be perfect as I, the Lord, thy God, am perfect." How are you folks doing on the perfection scale?
Great.
You know what's funny about that? This is the time where I get to rant. That's a quote from the New Testament, "Be perfect." And you know what Peter was talking about right before he says that, when he quotes, "You shall be perfect for I'm perfect"? He talks about food. Like, he's quoting all sorts of behavior that good Christians should follow. And when he quotes, "You shall be holy for I am holy," that specific phrasing is taken out of Leviticus where the food laws are. So David's going to be like, "Oh, you shall be perfect and you shall be holy." And I'm like, friend, you don't have reading comprehension. And even if he knew that's what Peter was quoting, he wouldn't care.
No, he wouldn't.
I'm coming up really short. To be brutally honest, I'm the worst sinner I know personally.
Great.
Not going to speak for anyone else. How can I face up to a God who can look into my heart, look into my thoughts? You want the
Is
short
this just
answer?
gonna
I
be
can't. I'd
preaching?
run from such a God.
it's
You
just him
couldn't drag me into this
preaching.
place with chains if that was the end of the story. But he's not just my creator. Most importantly of all, he's my savior. And that changes everything. Loved me enough to come into this world to take my sins and pile them all on him. He took the hit I should have taken. And
Sounds
once you know
like he's
that,
just
isn't it great to have
preaching.
hearing and seeing God? How about that for our concluding verse, Psalm 34, verse 15? The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto the cry. Thank you.
Great. I thought this would take longer than the normal amount of time that we
finally.
have. But apparently, no, it's taking less time. Which I don't have a second video. My plan was to finish tonight, and I figured that it would take us like an extra like half hour to an hour or something. Apparently not, because apparently we finished basically all of his actual claims that had any factual basis. We didn't even get any fancy new horrible analogies. We just got old horrible analogies. I mean, they're still really bad analogies, so I think the title still stands. Thank goodness we didn't have to hear more about him describing reproduction in the weirdest ways possible. Does he have kids? Does he talk to his kids about reproduction that way? Because I sure hope not. That'd be weird. All right, well, Vishanti. I guess we're probably going to be starting to wrap up in not too long. You got anything you want to rant about before we say goodbye to the audience?
I mean, I've always got a rant
Go for it. We've got time.
waiting in the wings, but
We do. We have time.
I
Rant.
wasn't. Just want me to take up a bunch of time ranting?
If you want to, I'm booked in this show for the next, 22 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. If you want to go on a quick 5-10 minute rant, you can. You just do it.
Oh my god. Oh man, no, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna be on Michael Beverly's channel on Thursday, and I have a wish list,
Yes.
so y'all can do that. I was just gonna shill those things. I wasn't gonna bring the energy down by ranting.
Or is that bringing the energy up? Because it takes energy to rant.
That's also fair. You would just have to give me a specific prompt. Because, like I said, I have many of these that I just frequently don't let out on air because it's just not the right forum for it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. We have a $9.99 super chat from Rosina Illegal Taxum Keller, who says AIG is a pulsing plus bag of P words. Thank you very much. I will take a drink for that. Go. Then I will adjust the little how close are we thing to be. Boom, 36%. All right, so I will say, looking forward in the next week, there have been some changes. Scheduling has gotten super complicated, for various reasons. You know, today was originally going to be Jackson with Jackson. That has been pushed to Friday. Originally, it was pushed until tomorrow. But instead, I am tomorrow going to be on Dan Stern Cardinal's Creation Myths channel. We're going to be talking about doing creationism better than the creationists, right? So, the thing is, basically, young Earth creationism is fundamentally extremely stupid, right? Like, it's right up there with Flat Earth and, like, QAnon in terms of just complete idiocy. But a lot of times, for some reason, creationists decide to be dumber than they need to be, right? Because you take, like, the core aspects of young Earth creationism, right? We got the flood, the creation 6,000 years ago, common ancestry from Noah for humans, limited separate ancestry for other organisms, fossil record has to be explained via the flood, things like that, right? Okay, cool. Those are all completely bonkers, off the wall, not even an option. However, there's other stuff, like created heterozygosity is not a great model. We could improve on it significantly. Just weird deciding to die on the hill of birds not being dinosaurs and no non-avian dinosaurs having feathers. Like, why are you bothering? Stuff like that, right? We're just like, you don't have to be this dumb creationist. You could just do better. And so Dan Stern Cardinal is gathering together myself and a whole bunch of other people. I don't know exactly who's on the list. But what we're going to do is we're going to take various creationist arguments that we're familiar with and make better versions of them. And say, hey, creationists, look, we're doing work for you. Here's a better version of your own statement that doesn't contradict any of your theological, like, core beliefs. We're not getting rid of Noah. We're not getting rid of the flood. We're not getting rid of a 6,000-year creation. None of those things. We're not getting rid of Adam and Eve. But there's a number of things that within that context you could just do better, but you choose not to. So here we're helping you with this. So that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, which I believe means that that's basically when Dan has put his kids to bed. It's about then. So I don't know how long that'll go, but that'll be on Creation Myths tomorrow. So the same time as this stream, whatever time that was for you, let's go hang out there. Then on Thursday, we have Steamboat Pammy, the third episode of the Pam Acker series, which has actually been doing really well. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching that, maybe sharing it. It's brought in a lot more views than normal, a lot of subscribers. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate everyone who's been watching that. So that one is going to be, the third part. I'm going to be premiering, at least publicly, my Steamboat Mickey, or Steamboat Willie, sorry. Or is it Steamboat Willie? Yeah, it's Willie, right? Am I just having, like, a brain fart?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's Steamboat Willie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse avatar, because, Steamboat Willie became public domain at the beginning of this year, right? Yeah. Anyway, so, yep, look forward to that. I believe the entire thing is in black and white, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So, that'll be... If you like black and white, that'll be fun. If you don't, I'm sorry. So then that's Thursday. Then on Friday, we should finally be having Jackson with Jackson. Then on Saturday, I have to find a new thing to react to. So if any of you have ideas as to what I should react to, send them my way. If more than one person sends me stuff, then I can't get all of them in. But I will certainly take a look. I've already been looking because I knew that today was probably going to be our last Menton day. Didn't find a whole lot. So yeah, send that if you want. Remember though, it does usually have to be fairly low-hanging fruit from the creationists, because if it requires me to do a whole lot of research, I can't really do that on the fly. That's why I usually pick stuff like Kent Hovind or like David Menton, just some of the least sophisticated people in young Earth creationism. Or Raw Matt for that matter, because, geez. All you need to do to debunk Raw Matt is be able to think logically. So let's see. That'll be Saturday. Then next Tuesday, the plan is Kent with Bent, where I get into my silly human suit and then put a tutu on top of that. So if you want to see my stupid human suit with a tutu, tune in on Tuesday. That'll be Tuesday, the July 2nd. Yeah, I do plan on having a video premiere on the 4th of July. So just a heads up, it's just going to be the next Pam Acker video. It's no special patriotic thing. I'm not waving a flag or anything, whatever. So yeah. You sure you don't have any rants that you want to go on?
I mean, my sister was like asking me what grinds my gears, but yeah, it's one of those things where if you want me to rant about something, you have to like give me a prompt.
Well, what do you think about rant about Menton? Give me a Menton rant.
I mean, he's just a typical young Earth creationist apologist. That's not really, to me, he's just boring.
Yeah, he's not the most fun guy that we've had. You know, I actually like. I was looking into one of the creationists that I've covered that I actually kind of like, Pete Greer, and I kind of like him because he's obviously not like someone who's just lying to everyone. He's obviously just very, very ignorant, and so I find that easier to forgive, right? Because he's just been misled. He clearly has no education on any of this, but he also hasn't done any like young Earth creationist stuff on the channel that I was looking at for like 2 years. That was kind of disappointing. Rosna Illegal Taxenkeller for $1.99 says, how many Pam videos are there? So there are 5 videos in the regular Pam series, and then eventually a supercut of all 5 of them together will be released, and that supercut is like 5 hours or something ridiculous. Actually, you know what? Rather than just saying like 5 hours or something ridiculous, I can just go look it up. It's right on my yeah. So let's see how long that is. So let's see. 4 hours, 19 minutes, and 22 seconds is how long the supercut of that video is.
Right on.
Yeah, which is... Look, there's another supercut that I already have uploaded that is 4 hours, 42 minutes, and 7 seconds. So, like...
Hot.
Yeah, it's a whole heck of a lot. So, yeah. That is the supercut for the Muslim Lantern and Sabur Ahmed series.
That's the whole thing. It's like it takes so much longer to debunk people's crap than it does to spew it.
The BS asymmetry principle is alive and well when it comes to creationism.
Indeed.
Yep.
Indeed. Yeah, I was picking through that 8-hour flat Earth video that came out 2 weeks ago, and
oh yeah,
it's like a greatest hits of my time on that corner of YouTube. And incidentally, that's how I found my way here, because we all did debunkings. But yeah, it was so funny because there are certain, I guess, incidents that I had forgotten about that just, God, I had me in stitches.
Okay, but
like,
Vishanti, given that halite is ubiquitous in Antarctica, what's the major cation? Is it sodium? Is
hang
sodium
on, let me
the
get my
cation?
anion calculator.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about,
Patience.
there was a guy who debated MC Toon and tried to say that Antarctica was made of salt,
man.
and that sodium was the major cation in the salt in Antarctica.
Cation, not cation.
No, not cation, cation. And he said something else was like the major anion, not anion.
Yeah.
And it was... I watched that live when it happened,
MC
and
Toon.
I was just like, what is happening right now? The major cation.
Man, there's so many classics though. But like Riley with his triangle calculator.
Oh, yeah, either you're wrong or my calculator is wrong.
Either you're wrong or my calculator's wrong, and that just becoming a meme that we ask every flat earther is just you have a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1 where the internal angles like.
Look, here's something. We need to come up with like questions to ask creationists to vet if they know enough about biology to even have the conversation. We got to come up with something.
Yeah.
Like,
man,
I don't know what they would be. If anyone has suggestions, like come think of some. But Morgan Poirier, you're calling it a night. Yeah, I'm going to be calling it a night too. We've been just rambling on for a little bit. If people are interested, we're going to be watching. I think 4 episodes of Power Rangers. It's going to be SPD. We are starting with episode 29. I think we're going to watch 29,
Oh,
30,
man.
31, and 32. And
Bob Ollie just reminded me when they were talking about, to Nathan Thompson, and it was him and possibly J.M. Truth, I don't remember, but I remember Geo Straber was the one he was basically, talking to. And they were like, yeah, calculate all these. No, it was J.M. Truth. They were both there. Try to calculate, the refraction and how many feet would be hidden behind the curve and da-da-da-da. And Nathan's like, oh, well, I don't work in meters. I work in miles.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, too. It was like, dude, it's the same thing. It's the same trigonometry. It's unit-independent, and he's like, I don't work in meters. Okay.
Yeah, I don't work in meters. And then J.M. Truth being so mad that he doesn't know how to input the data into the calculator. Like, because he puts in and gets these wild numbers. He's like, it should be hidden behind 58,000 feet of curve. And Geo Straber's like, yeah, what's the observer height? And he's like, what? Yeah, what's the observer height?
One of my favorite things about J.M.
scrolls
Truth,
up the page and it's 0 because he just left the box blank.
One of my favorite things about J.M. Truth is that he has misspelled his own name in the credits to one of his movies.
Man, look, if you have dyslexia,
own name.
Okay, but have someone else check it. If there's a red squiggly line under the things that you're trying to spell, you should maybe have somebody review that.
All right.
I think one of my favorite moments with that... one of my favorite moments is he gets all pissy about the SpaceX footage of, like, the rocket that was coming back to land. He was like, oh, it's fake, it's CGI, and they cut to... DKG Custom polishing his Emmy. That is not a euphemism.
Yeah, no, that's
the
literally...
Emmy that he won for doing special effects work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then GM's like panicking. He's going to quit.
He's getting so mad. He's like, well, if this person's going to be here, I'm not even going to talk to you. You just brought in extra people. And it's like, he's not talking. He's just sitting there polishing his Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, yeah, well, your video's like 20 seconds off from the real thing.
When it wasn't.
And he didn't know that that had been planted, that idea had been planted, because we knew he wasn't going to watch it.
Exactly.
He would just take that and run with it. Mm-hmm. And so they go, oh, okay, we're just going to play these clips side to side, and they'll be accurate to the second. You want to take a bet on it? He just couldn't handle it.
Well, that's enough reminiscing about young Earth, or, flat Earth in this case. It's the same thing, ultimately. But you know what?
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave all of you abandoned.
Abandoned.
Yes, you are now all abandoned by me, so enjoy the end credits while I head over to the Discord server in a few minutes to watch some Power Rangers. Talk to y'all later. Keep it flat. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Thuravara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Eleron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostek Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Lawless, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.